Good morning, one and all. Transcendental Tuesday, which follows Motivational Monday and precedes Wisdom Wednesday. Om Aganati Mananda Syangana Gana Salaka Chaksodun Meditam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutare. Sayamra Pakaramayam Darati Swaparantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. Siyurupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sajevam. Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam. Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitam Scha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare. Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Sarasati Deva Gauravani Pacharine. Nirvashesa Sanyavadi Paskata Desadani. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Basari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devam Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayodhire. Nishta Pareshu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagata Sevaya Bhagavati Atamashoki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Nigama Kapaturu Karitam Phalam Shukam Karamita Dravi Samitam Pibata Bhagatam Rashamari Amahora Hora Sikaviva Kaha. Srimad Bhagavatam morning classes, Transcendental Tuesday. We're coming back to the same verse from yesterday because it was so provocative. Good morning, Anjali, Sundari Priya, Joe, I believe. I'm not going to reach and scroll, Prashant, because then I just know the screenshot will be my thumb. Bill, Govinda, Dave, thank you all for joining us on this Transcendental Tuesday morning. Yesterday, we talked about the term Atma Maya. Prabhupada translates it as Krishna's sweet will, but it also means that Krishna is beyond causality and effectiveness were the words that were used. So we're going to come back to this topic and expound upon it more. Vishnu Dat, thanks for dropping in and joining us. Once again, the 30th verse in the second chapter, first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sa evadam sasagraje Bhagavan Atma Maya Sada Sadrupaya Chasho Guna Maya Guno Vibhu. In the beginning of the material creation, that absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, in his transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy. So these are the key phrases, both yesterday and today, that Krishna creates cause and effect. He's the puppet master. Cause and effect are the puppets that he causes to dance as he wish. He's not caused by anything. When people ask, why is Krishna blue? There's no reason why Krishna is blue. Krishna is blue because Krishna is blue. It's his own sweet will. His blueness is not caused by anything in the material world. He causes everything, nothing causes him. So Prabhupada writes in the purport here, the position of the Lord is always transcendental because the causal and effectual energies required for the creation of the material world were also created by him. He is unaffected. The cause and effect are his potencies, and he's the source of the potencies. He's the energetic cause and effect are his energies, and it's a fact that the energies can never dominate over the energetic source. The energetic source is always in control of his various energies. So therefore we understand right from the get-go that God is not caused by anything else, not his color, not his name, not his form, not his pastimes, not his paraphernalia, are not within the realm of cause and effect. Now what we're going to talk about a little bit today is how his devotees, having come up to his nature, Bhuta Bhava, serving him and entering into his internal potency, the devotees also, what happens to a devotee may superficially seem to be dictated by the laws of cause and effect. What Prabhupada calls causality and effectiveness. But they're not, because Krishna is personally guiding the steps of those who are devoted to him and chanting his holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So not only is God outside of cause and effect with this material world, but the things that happen to a devotee are not cause. For instance, the Pandavas went into exile for 13 years. There were attempts to kill them, burn them, poison them, kidnap their wife. And yet none of this occurred because of the law of cause and effect. This wasn't their karma. They were free from karma. They were righteous and pure to a fault. Even in their thoughts, they never had impious thoughts. So what happened to them was directly under the internal potency of the Lord. We gave the example previously that in the mouth of a cat, a rat feels only cruel death. That in that same cat's mouth, the kitten feels love. So people think mistakenly, why should I become a devotee of Krishna? Look what happened. Look what happened to the Pandavas when they became a Krishna devotee. Yeah, I'm telling you, look what happened to them. They were personally taken care of, protected, and sheltered by the Lord. And even though they faced and endured so many dangers, such a long duration of disenfranchised and exile, when it was all over, they wanted to do it again. They didn't want the comfortable palace life. They were so much awakened. Their senses were so much awakened when they were living in the forest with no one to depend on Krishna, that when they got all these material crutches back again, palace, bodyguards, army, protocol, etiquette, they felt themselves unprotected. Now, in other words, being protected by temporary material accoutrements, those who are pure devotees feel all those as dross, as foam, insubstantial. Only they want the pillar of Krishna's protection in their lives. Therefore, Kunti said, Vipada Shantu Shashvat to Bhavato Darshanam, Apanar Bhavadarshanam. Rather than being surrounded by all types of material protectiveness, I would prefer to go back into the forest and live from hand to mouth with enemies surrounding us on every side, but nevertheless having you personally looking over us and protecting us. This is the mood of a pure devotee, and this is the benefit of devotional service. Namam karmani limpatena me karma phalaspriya iti mam yobadantini karmavir sabadite. Krishna says, don't misinterpret my descent and my bodily form, my human-like form. In this material world, Krishna appeared within time and within space 5,300 years ago. He had a form. He was on the planet for 125 years. But Krishna says, this is not karma. This is my own Atma Maya. This is my own will by which I descend. But he also says, Itimam Yobada Karmavirna. But those who devote themselves to me, those who take shelter by lotus feet, they're also, just as I am free from action, reaction, karma, they're also free from karma as well. It says here, how can the jiva realize such unprecedented, transcendent existence of the Lord? The limited intellectual function of the jiva, the individual soul, is always contaminated by the influence of time and space and is therefore not in a position to shake off that limitedness. So we don't have the means, we don't have the facilities to offer ourselves and our loved ones protection. That's a fact. We're very vulnerable, we're extremely fallible. But when we take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we have the Lord of millions and millions of universes breathing in our direction, and nothing is impossible. Rake Krishna Make Ke, Make Krishna Rake Ke. If someone wants to kill you, and Krishna doesn't want you to be killed, then no power can kill you. And if someone else wants to protect you, but Krishna wants to kill you, then no government, no army, no military, no weapon can protect you, but you will be killed. So why should anyone do anything else than just take shelter at Krishna's lotus feet? Yesterday we talked briefly about how everything is God's internal potency, but it's used variously. And in terms of its application, it can be considered subcategorized, you might say. External material energy, marginal energy, or internal potency. Actually, everything's internal potency, but depending on its application, it can be subcategorized differently. And Prabhupada gives the example of God, to exemplify the internal potency, God is the same inside and outside. He's pure spirit, Satchidananda. Outside, he's pure spirit, Satchidananda, knowledge, bliss, and eternity. Inside, that's God. Then we have ourselves. We are a spark of God, a little tiny infinitesimal spark of eternality, knowledge, and bliss, but we're inside of this material body. We're a potency. We're the superior potency of God. This material body is made up of the external material potency of God. So one potency can overcome another potency, and that explains our embodiment. That explains our conditioned life in this material world. But the supreme potent can never be overcome by any of his potencies. So Krishna is always pure and uncontaminated. He has nothing to do with this material world. We, as small particles of him, got entangled in this material world. We got covered by matter. So that's God and that's man. God is internal, man is marginal. And then a doll, the example is of a doll. A doll, maybe it may look like a person, but it's not animated by an inner spark. So a wooden doll is wood inside, it's wood outside, it's wood through and through. Similarly, matter is not in and of itself conscious, it's never animated. It's only when the spiritual spark comes into it that then it appears to be alive. Prabhupada gives the example that sometimes electricity, which is all pervasive, can be used for heating in the winter, and that same electricity can be used for cooling in the summer when it's very hot. So the internal potency of the Lord acts in various ways for providing the living beings who want to live independent of God, to accommodate them. The internal potency transforms itself into matter, into the external potency. This material world is manifest through the gigantic Mahavishnu, and then the Lord glances on this material world, and the living beings, according to their karma and according to their desires to live separate from God, are impregnated in this material world, and they spring up in 8,400,000 species of life, okay? Now we want to talk a little bit about Brahma, who is the creator of this material world, mistakenly taken by many people to be God. People think God is the creator, so Brahma created this material universe. So many people would tend to mistake Lord Brahma as God because he created the universe. And indeed, the circumstances of Brahma's appearance are extraordinary. Extraordinary. Brahma is so exalted that he did not take birth from a womb. He was not packed up tight 9 months in an airtight bag, discomforted, bitten by worms and germs and bothered by parasites. Lord Brahma is far greater than that. He's on another level. He's called Atma Bhu, which means, in a sense, he was self-born. He came out of a lotus flower. Talk about a pure birth. Imagine emerging from a lotus flower without any need of mother and father or seminal injection. So exalted was he. And yet, even Lord Brahma, who is self-born from the lotus flower, even Lord Brahma, who created this entire universe, cannot understand who created him. Lord Brahma is the secondary cause of this universe. But as far as the primary cause, the cause of Lord Brahma, that personality who created Lord Brahma, who evoked Lord Brahma from the lotus flower, and then Tene Brahma Vrida imparted into the heart of Lord Brahma all the knowledge by which he could create this material universe, that primary cause, that cause of all causes, Lord Brahma declares himself, his intellect, his powers of intelligence, his deduction, inadequate to understand he who created him, Supreme Personality of Godhead. In a conversation between Brahma's son, Narada Muni, and Lord Brahma, this inadequacy on the part of Lord Brahma is underlined. And we should take our cue from this. If Lord Brahma who was born from a lotus flower, who created the four Vedas from his four mouths, who engineered this universe, who is exalted to his position because of lifetimes and lifetimes of previous pious, righteous activities. If he declares himself unable to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then why would we try to do it on our own intellectual or mental powers? I heard Prabhupada told a story one time. There was a racetrack and all kinds of sleek thoroughbreds, highly trained with all the right bloodlines, were lined up in the starting gate, waiting for the gun to start the Kentucky Derby. And there happened to be in a stable in the same complex, an old gray, sway-backed, knock-kneed mare who said to herself, well, why don't I try? Why don't I try? Could someone get me over into the starting gates and see how I could do against all the highly trained, blue-blooded thoroughbreds? We're the old gray mare, and Lord Brahma is the thoroughbred. We're not going to overtake him. We're not going to come abreast of him. We're not going to outrun him. Why don't we just take our cue from him? Because he couldn't understand God through yoga. He couldn't understand him fully through austerities. He couldn't understand him even by studying the Vedas. But he did end up understanding him. After all, Lord Brahma is the head of our disciplic succession. Our illumination, our progress in devotional service begins with Lord Brahma. We're part of the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So let's talk a little bit, let's review here the ways in which Lord Brahma is unequipped to realize the absolute truth, and then what he did in order to ultimately attain that realization, okay? So here are the musings of Narada Muni put to his father and guru, Lord Brahma. Narada Muni says, this is in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, my dear father, all this workings of the universe are known to you scientifically, because whatever was created in the past, whatever will be created in the future, and whatever is being created at present, as well as everything within this universe, is within your grip, just like a walnut. We learn from this verse that as far as this universe is concerned, Lord Brahma is omniscient. Not only has he created the universe, but he's omniscient. He knows everything that's going on within this universe. So he created the universe, he's omniscient. Wouldn't that make him God? No, because there's millions of other universes. There's millions of other Brahmas. And although Brahma knows everything that's going on with this universe, he doesn't know what's going on in other universes. In fact, there are some stories and narrations to the effect that Lord Brahma was unaware of the number of Brahmas that existed and created other universes. That's another story for another day. Narada Muni continues. As the spider very easily creates the network of his cobweb and manifests its power of creation without being defeated by others, so also you yourself, by employment of your self-sufficient energy, create without any other's help. Now, that might be a little tongue-in-cheek there. Whatever we can understand by the nomenclature, characteristics, and features of a particular thing, superior, inferior, equal, eternal, or temporary, is not created from any other source than that of your lordship, thou so great. Now, having said all that, talked about the basically unlimited / limited, unlimited in the sense that Lord Brahma is pretty unlimited within this universe, but limited in the sense that his power, his cognizance, his creative power does not extend to other universes, and there are countless other universes in the material world, which is only a small part of the overall creation of God. So here it comes now. After having said all this, Naraji says, yet, you create everything, you know everything is going on by your energies, yet, here we go now, yet, this is key, this is literally the key. This opens the door to our wider understanding. Yet we are moved to wonder about the existence of someone more powerful than you when we think of your great austerities and perfect discipline, although your good self is so powerful that you created this universe. My dear Father Brahma, what is the source of your knowledge? Under whose protection are you standing? Under whom are you working? What is your real position? Do you alone? Obviously, he does create and engineer the universe, but the question is, do you do this alone, creating all living entities with material elements by your personal energy? And it's at this point that Brahma admits Lord Krishna, in fact, is the primary creator. It is Lord Krishna who created Lord Brahma and endowed him with the wherewithal to then, on his part, go ahead and create the universe. In other words, the universe is basically created by Krishna, and Lord Brahma evokes it. Lord Brahma recreates it. Lord Brahma answers these pointed inquiries from Narada Muni. This is from the 2nd canto, 6th chapter, 33rd verse. My dear son, whatever you have inquired from me, I have thus explained to you, and you must know for certain that whatever there is, either as cause or effect, both in the material or the spiritual world, is dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here's the Sanskrit for the next verse, which Lord Brahma utters. Soham saman namayanasthapo maya prajapatinam abhivandita pati ashtam yoga nipunam shamitas tam yabhagatam yatma atma sambhavaha. Although I am the great Brahma, perfect in the disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom, and although I have undergone all austerities and am expert in all mystic powers and self-realization, and although I am recognized as such by the great forefathers of the living entities who offer me respectful obeisances, still, this still goes along with Narad's yet we're motivated to wonder about someone greater than you. And Brahma answers, I am the best yogi. I perform more austerities. I know more philosophy than anyone. Yet, he says, yet I still cannot understand him, Lord Sri Krishna, the very, very source of my birth. Lord Brahma is the secondary creator. He's the recreator. On a subtle form, Lord Krishna has already created everything. He has simply blessed Lord Brahma with the capacity to manifest this particular material universe. And Lord Brahma gets so much credit and blessings and favor because of that. However, he's not so egotistical and arrogant as to take personal credit. He gives the credit to Krishna. Some of our modern materialistic scientists should take their cue from Lord Brahma. We have so many PhDs and Nobel Prize winners. They get accredited, they get glorified, they get honored, they get praised by virtue of the fact, not that they've created everything from their brains, they get their recognition, they get their degrees, they get their Nobel laureates only by virtue of having discovered what Krishna has already put there. It is said research scholars, it says discoveries of progressive scientific achievements themselves are not independent. In other words, the scientist himself has not brought anything new into existence. He has not created anything. He has not independently achieved anything. He is not in any sense independent. All the acclaimed scientist does is simply discover what is already existing by means of his wonderful brain, which was created not by himself, but by Krishna. I once read a Back to Godhead article many years ago. I forget who wrote it. But they said that it took a team of 24 scientists 10 years to recreate the complexity of the vitamin B12 molecule, for which they got a Nobel Prize. They got a Nobel Prize after working for a decade to be able to draw a picture of a vitamin B12 molecule. But it didn't occur to anybody that the brains that they used to discover the vitamin B12 molecule were not created by themselves. They were created by God. And the vitamin B12 molecule is created by God. It's been around since forever. And they just discovered it. They got the credit. They got the Nobel Prize. Nobody thought to give God, who gave them their brains and who originally brought into being the vitamin B12 molecule. It never occurred to anybody in our secular, basically atheistic, scientific, or at least agnostic scientific world to nominate God for a Nobel Prize. So by empiricism, by research, by intellectual, Brahma, after all, he knows, he wrote, he spoke all the Vedas. He's thoroughly conversant with Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, sense gratification, economic development, religiosity, and liberation. He's the last word in all of these different subjects and categories of activities. He holds the universe in his hand and knows everything that's going on, just as a child will hold a walnut in his hand, and still he says, I cannot fully know him who is the source of my birth. Therefore, what does he do? And we should be extremely keen at this point. We should be astute enough to realize that we shouldn't waste our time trying to understand God through mental speculation, through yoga. None of these things are bad, but if they're not combined with the exercise, the practice that we're going to bring out right now, that we're going to bring up right now, they're not going to get you to where you need to go. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bhaktya tu ananyaya sakyam ahamevam vidarjana gatva chatvam chadrastina pravestam cha parantapa. Krishna says, and he addresses Arjuna as parantapa, destroyer of enemies. He gives credit to Arjuna's fame, to his prowess as an undefeated warrior who has put down hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of enemies. And yet, Krishna is basically saying to Arjuna, forget about your prowess, forget about your achievements, forget about your yoga, forget about your mental speculation, forget about your accomplishments, and just surrender to me. Through that bhakti, through that surrender, you become a friend to me and I become a friend to you. Only by undivided surrender under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master can one come to know God as he is, as he was standing face to face to Arjuna. Brahma concludes his dialogue with Narada Muni here, gives Narada Muni the answers he was looking for with respect to who do you worship, who do you credit with your powers. Here is the answer that Lord Brahma gives, and we should be very keenly interested in what this answer is, because it gives us access to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The practice of bhakti is not limited to a certain class of people, to those who have prior qualifications. It is open to all. In fact, if I see a bunch of emojis right now, I can give you a little rap song about bhakti, about the super excellent nature of bhakti. But you guys have got to kind of give me the little push that I need by hitting those likes and those thumbs up There we go. They're starting to come now. Starting to come. All right. All right. This is 50% from Kalakanta's book, The Rap of God, the Bhagavad Gita, and 50% me. I took his longer lines, kind of shortened them up, made them a little more pithy, but I wouldn't be able to recite this without Kalakanta's seminal contribution. Are you ready? In the Bhagavad Gita, Song of the Supreme, Krishna streams to his team member Arjuna, the cream of all the devotees. Arjuna, the things you do every day, the gifts you give in every tasty veggie dish, offer them to me with love and see your soul enriched. Cup of water makes me smile, though I could drink an ocean. Flower and fruit and leaf are fine if they offered in devotion. Keeping me in the center, your karma will never interfere, because loving devotional service is the dharma of the spiritual atmosphere. I don't play any favorites. Everyone gets what they desire. So if someone longs for me in bhakti, I'm naturally inspired. And even if you mess up a time or two, I won't make any complaint. Just rise up again. You can still shine like a saint. The undiluted souls, Mahatmas, know reality. And feeling my protection, the flow of their affection comes to me. They sing my sacred names with voices sweet and stake their rightful claims at my lotus feet. I see, maintain, and shelter all. I am the seed of everything. I am everyone's best friend, the beginning, middle, and end. Arjuna, tell the people boldly, Krishna's devotee never dies. Men and women, high and lowly, everybody's equal in my eyes. Anybody who comes to me will never be denied. Bhakti Yoga will set you free. Success is guaranteed. Think of me, become my devotee, and you will live with me eternally. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, this is how Lord Brahma achieved success, by devotional service, by bhakti. Therefore, Lord Brahma answers the inquiries of his son Narada Muni as to who's the supreme and how to reach him in the following way. Therefore, it is best for me, the omnipotent creator of this material universe, to surrender unto his lotus feet, which alone can deliver one from the miseries of repeated birth and death. Such surrender is all auspicious and allows one to perceive all happiness. Even the sky cannot estimate the limits of its own expansion. So what can others do when the Lord himself is unable, when the Lord himself is unable to estimate his own limits? And Prabhupada says, nevertheless, in spite of this blazing trail which our preceptor and our creator, Lord Brahma, has left, in spite of this huge torch, transcendental knowledge, which Lord Brahma has ignited, it still is an unfortunate, lamentable fact that persons with tiny brains within this petty planet Earth think of the Lord as one of them. Think of the body in which the Lord appeared as a material body. Think of the Lord as an ordinary historical personality. Thus, when the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita that all speculative philosophers and mundane wranglers deride him, he very, very regretfully notes, Avajananti mam mudha manosim tanamasita param bhama janato mama bhuta maharasham. Although I am the Lord of all created beings, including Brahma and many, many, many universes, still because I have appeared in a human form, like the forms of the inhabitants of this material world, like the forms of those who are bound and conditioned by their karma, people with tiny brains on this petty planet mistakenly think that I am one of them. Therefore, it's essential, absolutely essential, that one understand the creative powers, that one understand the potencies, limitless potencies of the Lord first, before one can understand the transcendent, nature of the Lord's form and personality. Maharaj Parikshit sat down with 7 days to live, and he ended his time on this earth most profitably by inquiring from Sukadeva Goswami, starting with how did the Lord create? Parikshit didn't say to Sukadeva Goswami, well, we're limited in time, we've got a schedule to keep. Can we just skip right to the 10th canto and talk about the amorous pastimes of the Lord? No, even though he had only 7 days to live, he did it right. He took 6 of those 7 days to hear the first 9 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam, to learn all about the creative Shakti, creative potencies, the limitless powers of the Lord, before they came to the 10th canto, which discusses the Krishna form, Yam Shaima Sundaram Achintagunu Swarupam, the threefold bending form of Krishna with a flute to his lips and a peacock feather in his hair, and all of his transcendental associates, the gopis and the gopas, and all their pastimes. Therefore, it is crucial, if you want to achieve the highest perfectional goal of life, instead of jumping at once to the platform of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord as presented by the Lord's confidential internal potency in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, you need to follow in the footsteps of Parikshit Maharaj and inquire about the process of the Lord's creative energy. And only when one knows the Lord's greatness first can then one firmly put one's unflinching faith in him. Yasha deve para bhaktir yata deve tata guru tasherite prakasate mahatmana. Only to those who have unflinching faith in the process of surrender and follow the guru, the spiritual master, who teaches one how to surrender, only to those people of unflinching faith who have done their homework, who have followed the tried and true process, only to those prakashante mahatmana are all the bright truths of the Vedic literatures reveal. Prabhupada says here, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavan or in Dwarka are relishable by exalted, rare souls who have already qualified themselves through thousands of previous lifetimes and by advanced spiritual techniques of surrender. However, that same altitude, those same heights are available even to the common man if he's willing to submit himself to the gradual process of service and inquiries, as we see in the behavior of Maharaj Parikshit. That's what we're doing, gradually and thoroughly, going through the Srimad Bhagavatam, and through many, many weeks, in fact, of our getting together on Motivational Monday, Transcendental Tuesday, and Wisdom Wednesday. We've been going for months now, and we're still only in the 30th verse, 2nd chapter of the Bhagavatam. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, but most verses we don't deal with them in one day. Last week, Narayana Para Vedana. Last week we spent the whole 3 days on one verse. This week we've spent Motivational Monday and Transcendental Tuesday on one verse. And tomorrow we're still going to be on this verse. I had intended to discuss the position of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva today, but we used up all of our time just talking about the great Brahma, the head of our Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. And so tomorrow we're going to focus on another great devotee, Vaishnavanam Yatashambhu, the greatest of all Vaishnavas, Lord Shiva. We're going to do that 23 hours from now on Wisdom Wednesday. In the meantime, thank you so much for being with us. I would scroll through this, but the problem is, you see that finger there? That's going to be the screenshot. When this session appears on our Facebook page, it's not going to be You know, the 44 minutes and 59 seconds where you get a face shot of me, for some reason, in a very, very diabolical, uncanny way, Facebook picks the one shot with my finger on the screen that everybody will see. So as far as I can remember, Anjali's here, Sundari Priya, Govinda, Joe joins us, Terry joins us regularly. Thank you all for being with us. Thanks for those who just dropped in. Prashant, so much appreciative for being with us. Let's get back together tomorrow morning at 7:30 to relish the pastimes and realizations of the greatest of all Vaishnavas, none other than Mahadev, Lord Shiva. And until then, don't forget to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.